Everybody from F. Scott Fitzgerald to Ernest Hemingway to James Baldwin has written for Esquire. When you took this job, what did you think about that, what you were stepping into?
I didn't think too much about it, and the reason why I say that is because if you actually thought about the literary legacy of this place, I don't think you could get out of bed in the morning because it is so formidable. So I'm actually lying when I say that I didn't think about it that much. I thought about it a lot. And, you know, I think that the most important thing is that that literary legacy has carried through since 1933 to today. If you are working at the magazine today, here's, you know, 2023 into 2024, you are in a room that is across from stuff that held James Baldwin, Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, you know what I mean? It's like you get to be in this room with all of these titans of literature, journalism, art. This is really something. So that's the debut issue right there.
For the very first issue of Esquire,
yes.
It's, you know, John Dos Passos, Ernest Hemingway.
The founding editor, Arnold Gingrich, knew that he wanted what was then the hottest writer in America and the world to write for Esquire, Ernest Hemingway. And despite his many overtures, Ernest Hemingway kept saying no. And finally, Arnold Gingrich essentially stalked Hemingway and cornered him in a bookstore in New York and said, look, will you please write for Esquire? I'll get whatever you want. And finally, Ernest Hemingway just said, okay, fine, buy me a boat. And he was like, okay, we can work this out. What Esquire did was gave him half of the money to buy Pilar, which was the famous boat that he wrote, Old Man and the Sea, and all of these other iconic stories, many of which first appeared in Esquire magazine. So here's Ray. So Andy Warhol, Joan Didion.
Whoa. Here's Andy Warhol, which I love. Warhol in 1975, title TV, price $1,000. There's Truman Capote. There it is. La Côte Basse, 1965, the title, purchased in 1975, $25,000. The other thing that comes to mind when I think of Esquire are the covers.
The Esquire cover is one of the most iconic pieces of real estate in America, I think. You know, in the 1960s, there was all of these wonderful covers of Muhammad Ali and so on. So where does it go from there? This is something that we have thought about a lot. The Esquire cover should be iconic. It should be something that stands the test of time.
When your editorial or your creative director comes to you and says, this is the idea that we have for a cover, what are you thinking and what are you pushing back on?
We have 90 years of legacy to look back on. And it's really tempting to look at covers that were done in, say, the 60s and say, well, why don't we recreate that? And something that was said to me by our creative director when I started that I think about a lot is that he said, you know, the editors of the 60s weren't looking to the 30s for inspiration. They were looking at right now.
So one of the reasons I'm really happy to be having this conversation with you is because we're revealing this month's cover.
Yes.
Tell me who it is.
The woman who is on our cover in our September issue is Zoë Kravitz. I think what makes this so unique for her and for us is that she is not going to be in the press this fall for starring in a movie. She wrote and directed a movie that is coming out called Blink Twice.
What did you want me, the reader, to take away when they see the cover with Zoë Kravitz?
So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we really conveyed is that this is a story about the whole Zoë. Yes, we want her to look, you know, very cool, very stylish, very sexy on this cover, but at the same time, you know, this is a story about her, the writer, her, the director, her, the creative person. And this to us felt like with this look on her face, the way that she's kind of looking at you, kind of challenging you in a way. And that's what her movie does. And that's why we wrote that cover line too inside her twisted, brilliant mind.
What are you looking for when you assign a writer?
And that is something that we think very long and hard about. Madison felt sort of natural for this. And the reason that I say that is because, first of all, she was a proponent of Zoë even prior to this movie coming out. And one of the reasons for that is that she also did the profile of Lenny Kravitz for us. When we were considering who to put on our cover, that was one of the questions we had. Well, do we want to put another Kravitz on the cover like within a year? And you know, I thought about that. She had talked to Zoë about her dad for the piece that she wrote, and they kind of connected on that. The September issue is an important issue for a fashion magazine. Traditionally, if you're a men's magazine, you put a man or men on your cover because they're going to be wearing the latest fashion, right? So The fact that we put a woman on our September cover is a little unusual. She's wearing a great Saint Laurent dress, but at the same time, it's not a man in a suit or something along those lines. And that kind of goes with the theme of this issue, as a matter of fact, which is mavericks. People who are creating interesting things and kind of doing it their own way, breaking rules and so on. And where we thought, well, why not steal a page from our mavericks and do something that is a bit of a swerve?
What are you thinking about for the next 90 years?
One of the things that keeps me up at night is how I'm going to hand this brand over to the next generation of editors. That means continuing to tell stories that are impactful and reflect the culture and staying true to our brand, but making sure that we are reaching audiences in all kinds of new and different ways.
I think I told you when I first met you that certainly when I thought about a career in journalism, I had heroes in television. I do recall specifically in my journalism school application saying that I wanted to be a writer for Esquire magazine.
Yeah. I feel like you are a good embodiment of an Esquire man. And the reason that I say that is because one of the things that makes us unique, in fact, I would say at the moment we're arguably one of, if not the only magazine brands that still does this, is that seamless mix of fashion and lifestyle and journalism and ideas. You're very well dressed. You think about, you have, tailors that make your suits and so on. We can have a great conversation about what restaurants to eat at, but also you care deeply about politics and you care deeply about, current events and ideas, and you're well read and curious and so on. And I think that's a hallmark of, who the Esquire guy is. If I am correct about your birthday month being December 1969?
December 1969.
Yes. Okay, so let's pull this one out. This is another trick that I like to show people there. All right, so this is you right there.
What? Eldridge Cleaver. Look at that. 1970 Buick, Skylark. Pipes.
It's interesting, you think about in 1969, how are you going to reach the American man, right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
This is
Esquire.
it. This is it.